This is the Chris Project, where we discuss mental wellness, self-awareness, and mindset with entrepreneurs and experts. Set your perceived ideas and biases aside, and let's go on our journey for yourself, for your family, for the world.
Welcome to another episode of the Chris Project. I am your host, Christian Brim. Joining me today, hypnotherapist Craig Meriweather. And before you tune out because you heard hypnosis, stay tuned because I promise you this is worth listening to. And I've never talked to Craig. Craig, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate you inviting me onto your show. And yeah, you're correct. It's there's a lot of unfortunate misconceptions and myths about hypnosis and therapeutic hypnosis, and I think it scares a lot of people off. Like you said, it tunes them out, and it's unfortunate because it's an extraordinary way of this umbrella term of hypnotherapy of techniques and tools to access your subconscious mind and create change.
Yeah, and I would have put myself in the camp of those skeptics until my business coach recommended a hypnotherapist that he had been using. And I was skeptical, like I said, and it was expensive. And I really only did it because the need I perceived was compelling. Like the problem I was trying to solve was compelling. Yeah. And I trusted his judgment. Like I didn't think he would steer me wrong.
Right.
And the experience was remarkable. I think I thought, like most people do, that either hypnosis isn't real or it's some type of vaudeville, stage act, right? But what I was exposed to, and I didn't do it for very long, and to an extent it did solve the problem, but what I was shocked at was the reprogramming of the brain. Like I'm like, how in the hell did you do that? That's weird. So that's just my personal experience.
It seems like magic, and it seems weird and spooky and voodoo-ish. But really, all hypnotherapy is, it's not doing anything you're not doing already. The reason you are compelled and other people seek out this kind of therapy is that they kind of already hypnotized themselves. And, some of you struggle with anxiety. Maybe it's around business, around work, maybe it's around family. I'm guessing it's just happening in one area of your life. And while it may seem that it happens all the time, that you're anxious all the time, it may seem pretty chronic. Maybe it's been going on a long time even. I'm going to guess it doesn't happen all the time. There are parts of your day when you're not anxious. Out of the 16 hours or so that you are awake, you're not anxious all 16 hours. There are times maybe it's late at night while you're watching TV, or up early in the morning while you're working out, or having lunch with a friend, or playing golf, whatever the thing is. There's a part of your day when you are not anxious. So the subconscious mind knows when to turn it on and turn it off. So you have programmed yourself to create this warning system, because that's what the feeling of anxiety, feeling of being anxious is. It's warning you that there's danger, fear, warning you that there's danger. That's why you don't walk down the dark alley at midnight, even though it's a shortcut home. That's why you don't peer over the edge of the tall building or the Grand Canyon too far, because it's dangerous, and that fear and that anxiety will keep you away from that. Now, we may hypnotize ourselves to activate that warning system in opportune times, maybe about giving that presentation at the networking event, or at the big meeting, or in front of the financial advisors or investors. And so you've hypnotized yourself in one form or another to create a physical response. Because it's not just, nonsense or fakery. You're literally creating a physical response, and it's not easy to turn on the stress response. It's not easy to turn on the fight or flight. brain has to start creating that adrenaline and cortisol, dumping it into your bloodstream. The heart starts racing, you get to the big muscle of your arms and legs to fight or to escape. Your immune system and the like digestive system, the power starts turning down because it wants all that energy into the big muscles of your arms and legs. You start breathing shallowly, you get quick oxygen. This happens like in sleep when somebody's having a nightmare.
Right.
Because the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. That's just part of being human. And so if you've ever had the experience of having a nightmare, maybe something very realistic somebody has gone through, like a veteran having a PTSD dream about being back in combat on the front lines, even though their war was 40 years ago. Or maybe something super ridiculous, something super stupid, like cheeseburgers chasing down the street throwing coconuts at your head. It's never going to happen. And yet your subconscious mind thinks you're under attack, that you're in danger. It has this shoot first, ask questions later kind of safety protocol. And it'll turn on the stress response to armor you, to protect you, and to warn you. And that's just in sleep. That's what's happening when you're having a dream. Literally change your physiology because of cheeseburgers attacking you on the street.
Right.
So what's going on in your waking world? And so if you start attaching certain feelings of fear or overwhelm or worry, creating the anxious feelings, the stressed out feelings, you can start wiring that into your brain. Because what you practice, you get better at, which is great if you're learning the piano or guitar or martial arts or learning to walk as a kid. But what if you're practicing anxiety and stress? Are you not programming yourself for certain patterns in certain situations, maybe work, maybe family, maybe some other situation? So you're hypnotizing yourself. You're influencing yourself with the news you listen to, the talk radio you listen to, or the podcast you listen to. You're influencing yourself all the time to lean this way or that way. All we do in therapeutic hypnosis is do it on purpose with these certain tools and techniques. And you mentioned kind of the vaudevilleness of the shows, like in Las Vegas or comedy clubs and things. And understand this isn't mind control. It isn't brainwashing. It's not turning people into zombies, not turning people into Manchurian candidates to assassinate the prime minister. This is giving you back control. Because in a sense, you're already out of control. If you're just automatically, I work with people and they say, I don't even know why I'm anxious. I don't know why I'm angry all the time. I just feel this sense of resentment. I don't know what it's from. Maybe from childhood. I work with people in their 70s who had great abuse that they had forgotten about or masked when they were children. Carried that for some 65, 70 years. It's like, that's how powerful you are, because they're not doing it to harm themselves. They're doing it to protect themselves because they want to remember that can be a dangerous world out there. They hypnotize themselves to react to the world in a certain way because of the experiences they had in life. So all we do is just do it on purpose. But we can't make somebody do anything. That's why smoking cessation, one of the things hypnotherapy is really famous for, is helping people quit smoking. So that's not 100% guarantee, because if you don't want to quit smoking, you're not going to quit. I can't make you quit smoking.
Right.
And so, somebody, like their wife or husband saying, oh, you know what? I'm tired of the smoking, the money, the smell. It stinks all the time. The health implications that are coming down the line. You're quitting. I've made an appointment for you Thursday at 2:00. You're going to go see a hypnotherapist. And they show up. It's like, well, I don't want to quit. I'm just going to tell them I tried everything and even hypnotherapy didn't work. And so I'll smoke in the garage. They don't want to quit, so I can't make them quit. Otherwise, I could hypnotize Elon Musk to write me $1 billion check. But the reason I don't have $1 billion check is because they don't want to write me one.
Right. So if you were going to, in layman terms, define hypnosis, because you've talked about, we hypnotize ourselves,
Sure.
And you do hypnosis therapy, then what is the definition of hypnosis?
Yeah, hypnosis is just this brainwave state.
Okay.
And so the famous ones we learned about back in school, beta, alpha, theta, and delta, it's literally just how fast your brain is processing information. Mm-hmm. And you and I, Christian, right now, we are in the beta brainwave state. We're focused in this present moment, focused at the task at hand, having this conversation. We're in the present moment. We're firing those little electrical pulses in our brain about 18, 20 cycles per second. People probably seen those videos of the brain and it's shooting that lightning storm.
Right.
I move my hand around, or you're walking down the street, or you're thinking a thought, feeling an emotion. This lightning storm of all these brain cells firing low electrical pulses happens. How fast that lightning storm happens determines what brainwave state you're in. So let's say I'm back in high school math class, and I'm focused, because that's going to be on the final, and I got to do well.
Right.
And so I'm trying to pay attention. I don't understand what's going on. I'm trying to write down the equations and understand. And I'm in the present moment. I'm focused. I'm trying to get it together, but it's boring for me. And so I just start staring out the window, and my mind floats off and drifts off. We all have that happen. You can't remain in the beta brainwave state of this conscious awareness of the present moment 16, 17, 18 hours a day. That's why people find meditation annoying and difficult and frustrating, because it's difficult to keep your mind in the present moment. And even long-time meditators will say, yeah, I did my half an hour meditation, but my mind's all over the place. It's difficult. So it's a natural state of moving into an altered state of consciousness, that daydreamy state, which they call the alpha brainwave state. So you move from like 18, 20 cycles per second to like 12. Now I'm just staring out the window in high school math class. I'm thinking about the weekend coming up. It's going to be so much fun. I'm going to hang out with my friends. I have vacation, my family took last year. And well, I'm still there in the classroom. The teacher's still talking. I'm just not paying attention. That meeting at work or the networking event or whatever, your mind drifts off. Have you ever had that experience of driving down the street and you don't remember the last minute or two? You miss your exit or something. And you find yourself at work, or you find yourself at home or the store or wherever, picking up the kids. It's like your subconscious mind took over driving, your conscious mind drifted away to think about something else, maybe the project that's due on Friday, or you have people coming over on the weekend. Your subconscious mind knows how to drive, like knows how to walk and tie your shoes and all that stuff. So it took over driving because it knows how to drive home. It knows how to drive to work. It's done it hundreds upon hundreds of times. So you slowed down how fast your brain is processing information and drifted off. Watching TV put you in the alpha brainwave state. And then you get into that really hazy state. You're not really asleep, but you're not really awake. And I'm back in high school math class. I started laying down, and I'm not really asleep yet. Pretty soon I will be. I'm firing about 6 cycles per second. I'm heading down towards 1 half cycle per second, the delta brainwave state. But the teacher sees me and says, "Hey, Craig, why don't you come up here and do the problem on the board?" And I startled myself awake, and I'm looking around, and everybody's staring at me, and I'm embarrassed. And I looked at this problem on the board. I don't know how to do it because I wasn't paying attention.
Right.
Even though I was sitting there in class, I wasn't paying attention. And now I'm stressed. I'm firing about 30 cycles per second. I've altered my state of consciousness like 3 or 4 times just sitting there in high school math class because I got bored. It's like that's hypnosis. The alpha, theta, delta brainwave states is what's known as the hypnagogic trance state, is the fancy term. And this word has grown to, because of movies and TV, and unfortunately it's grown to have this magical kind of idea that we can take control of you, and you can't. It's just a natural state of brain that we just put yourself in. That whole trope, that whole cliche, I don't have one right here, but like a pocket watch where you're swinging the pocket while you're getting sleepy. I'm just math. I don't mean to put math teachers on blast. I apologize to any math teachers out there, but I'm just being a boring person at the party, at the networking event. And that whole trope that you saw in the movies back in the 1940s or whatever, it's like, you are getting sleepy, Bueller. It's just trying to bore somebody into that alpha brainwave state. And even the word hypnosis, back in the early 1800s, we're talking like 1820s, there was a doctor, Dr. James Esdale, and he was a surgeon in India. And back then, it's just all over the world, not just India, but all over the world. There's not fancy hospitals or fancy anesthesia. You're having your leg amputated, you're biting down on a stick, or blow to the head to knock you unconscious. So he's learned this trance state. He learned this to put people into this deep, deep trance state. It took about an hour. And he put them in this deep trance state that looked like they were in a coma. So he could do surgery and cut people open with a knife and take out tumors and sew them up, do amputations, deal with war injuries and wounds and all this kind of stuff. So he goes back to England and he starts talking about and teaching people this trance state. Another doctor, Dr. James Bard, learning about this trance state, working with it, wanting a word to describe it to his colleagues and to write about it, thinks that he should name it after the Greek god of sleep. The Greek god of sleep is hypnos. So he called it hypnosis. And so this word has just grown to encompass all sorts of these altered states of consciousness of the alpha, theta, and delta brainwave state. We can do this work, in a crowded airport with your eyes open under fluorescent lights at a crowded gate if somebody's having a panic attack or something. It's nicer if the room's a little dim and you're in a comfortable chair and you have a blanket over you maybe or something. Yeah, that's nicer. Helps the body relax. Focusing on swinging a pendulum or a watch, or stare at that spot on the wall, the wonderful picture or the window. Yes, that we have these techniques and these tools to help the mind and the body move into a more relaxed state, even a more bored state, if you will. But it's a natural state that you go into multiple times a day. That's the whole thing of consciousness. You're moving in and out all the day, at work, at a party, at home, over dinner. Your consciousness moves in and out. That's just the natural state of being a human being. All we do is take advantage of it. Watching TV puts you in the alpha brainwave state. And they knew that back in 1969. And that research didn't come out in a medical journal. It came out in the Journal of Advertising and Marketing in 1969. And it's a very influential state, being in the alpha and theta brainwave states. The news knows that, TV knows that, politicians know that, certainly advertisers know it. And so you move yourself into a highly influential state multiple times a day. You're doing it anyway. And it's not that you're always influenced. Just to be, not to make it political, but just I think people get this example of the news. There's a certain style of news that some people are influenced by and other people are not. So you can take a right-wing leaning person, get them to watch CNN or MSNBC, and they're not going to be influenced by that, even though they're watching TV and they're in the alpha brainwave state. You get a left-leaning person and get them to watch Fox News or One or whatever. They're not going to be influenced by that,
Right.
So you just can't make somebody. Now they're more inclined, let's say a right-leaning person, to watch Fox News and be influenced. A left-leaning person, MSNBC or NPR or something. And they're more inclined to be influenced by that because they open themselves up to those ideas and that influence. So if you're interested, you can do great healing in this work. But I can't make you do anything. Again, I'd be a really rich person if I could just get billionaires to write me checks once a week. So it's not control. It's giving you back control. It's not even really hypnotizing you. It's dehypnotizing you, really, of the issues that you have been carrying for a really long time.
Yeah, I noticed after I had done the hypnosis, I was more aware of the liminal state between sleep and non-sleep. So like you described it, the point right before you go to sleep. And I also noticed like what affects that. So like trying to recall something or trying to remember, like, okay, I need to remember to do this tomorrow, something like that. Engaging that part of my brain disrupted that liminal. And I knew I was in that liminal space for me when random, and I mean random, images would start to come to my mind, right? They were not like connected to anything that I had been thinking about or that I was worried about or anything. It would just be these random images, and sometimes it would be a person that I'd never seen before, or sometimes it would be a building or a room, like just random, like, and that to me was just my own kind of like understanding of how my brain works, I assume that not everybody's brain works in images like that, but
Right.
maybe. But that liminal space, right before you go to sleep, is the closest that I can compare the hypnosis state to. It's like, is that accurate?
Yeah, oh, yeah, it's very accurate. Again, this isn't we're doing magic to you. We're not creating some new state of consciousness.
Right.
We're just working with what's already there. We're working with what you've already done. And yes, there's a different. That's why there isn't just one technique. There isn't one size fits all. Some people are more visual, some people are more auditory. We knew that back in school. There's visual learners, auditory
Right.
learners, kinesthetic learners. And so that works with hypnotherapy too. That's why there's all these sorts of different techniques and tools. But again, it's like you can't make anybody do this. There's probably people listening who even have been to a hypnosis session. They say, well, it didn't work for me. I'm one of those people that can't be hypnotized. And the researchers at the universities and things, they love to have their little tests and see if you're hypnotizable. Can you be hypnotized? And 20% of the people can't be hypnotized. That's not true. It can't be true. They couldn't be hypnotized with you in that university setting, in that particular office. They didn't feel comfortable.
Or they were resisting.
And they were resisting. Yeah, they exactly 100% were resisting because they took control. They didn't feel comfortable. They didn't feel comfortable with the person, with the office, with the Zoom call. I do most of this stuff over Zoom now. They didn't feel comfortable with the Zoom call. Their spouse, their mom, their dad set up the appointment, and they didn't really want to be there, so they're going to, settle in and resist and put up that wall. Why? Because they are in control. They don't want to, so they won't. And it's not that you can't. It's that's how powerful you are. That you decided, maybe unconsciously, you didn't want to do it. Maybe there's unconsciously or maybe consciously, you thought, you know what, I'm not ready for this healing right now. It's not the right time for it. Again, that may have been an unconscious thought, and you just walked away thinking, oh, I can't be hypnotized. Everybody can be hypnotized because you do it to yourself all the time. The reason we have, again, the politics thing, the reason maybe you align yourself one way or the other is because of you've been influenced, maybe through family or friends or just life experience. You've been hypnotized. Again, it's not a bad thing or an evil thing. It's just like, that's the way life works. That's the way the mind works. That's the way the brain works. All we do is take advantage of that. Like with sports, you can hypnotize somebody to have more focus. Or even in business, have more focus, have more motivation. Maybe there's fear around expanding, opening up that second location or getting the manager or something. There's fears around that. Okay, let's work with that. Why are you creating this physical response of anxiety or worry or anger around opening up the second location or expanding to 100 employees or whatever it may be? The whole thing with the shows, you go to Las Vegas and there's a hypnotist show and there's people up on stage that came up from the audience and are dancing like Michael Jackson and singing like Elvis and dancing, barking like dogs and quacking like ducks. Every single person up there on the stage volunteered to be up there. He didn't pick resistant people who didn't want to. He's not picking the introvert at the back of the room, sitting in the shadows, sinking down in their chair, trying to hide. He's picking the extrovert who got there early, sat in the front rows, now jumping up and down saying, pick me, because they want to be star of the show. They want to be up on stage and have a good time. And they all have a big smile on their face at the end of the show because they had a good time. They want a funny video to put on Instagram. They want to be silly in front of their friends. They just want to be part of the fun. And you'll notice in those shows, they'll bring up like 12, 14, 16 people. Because they know the hypnotist knows they're going to excuse about 3 or 4 of them. Because even if they thought it was a good idea sitting in the audience, once they get up there and the bright lights and maybe even cameras, and of course everybody's got their phone out filming this, and the mind starts to panic a little. So, they get stage fright. Right. Now, as a professional, person who knows hypnosis and hypnotherapy. He's doing it on the entertainment side because there's great money in that and it can be fun. But he would know how to deal with that in a clinical setting. But he doesn't have time. This is a show.
Right.
You got to get going. These people are out in an hour, so we got to get the show going. He doesn't have 20 minutes to help this person, get relaxed. And so they're excused from the stage. You'll see that in like the YouTube videos and things. So, you seem comfortable because they're looking for certain cues, muscle relaxing in the face. And you may even pick up the arm and see because they'll do a little test, a little hypnosis test. And you'll see if the eyes are darting around and all this kind of, those are little cues, body language. And if they sense the person is really tense and tight, there's like, they're not going to be good. It's not going to be a fun show. And so they're excused. Why? Because they can't do it.
So you use the word therapy. The guy that I used was in California, and this may have been part of the reason, but he was purposeful in not using the word therapist or therapy because of legal ramifications. Are you a licensed counselor?
No. I am not a psychotherapist or any sort of psychiatrist or anything like that. I am specifically a hypnotherapist, just as somebody may be a massage therapist. They're not a physical therapist. They're not a general practitioner. They haven't gone to medical school. They went to massage school. I went to hypnotherapy school. I went to great training at the Hypnotherapy Academy of America. It's 500 hours. And I'm glad you brought this up because this is really, you need to be careful about if this interests you and you want, to look into this, be careful about who you work with because there are states where, you don't need much training to put out your little certificate. And, there's a training. I live in Arizona. I live in Flagstaff, Arizona. I do most of my work over Zoom now.
Right.
I work with people around the country, around the world. I work with people, just to be some of the unique places people have been in Iceland and Bulgaria and Puerto Rico and Costa Rica and Tahiti. And most of them are Americans at working or school or, on vacation or something. But that's the extraordinariness of this technology that we're using right now. But, there's a workshop coming up in Phoenix, Arizona, and there's a traveling training thing. They were in a hotel ballroom, and in 3 days, 24 hours of training, and you can call yourself a certified clinical hypnotherapist. Because they just call you that. They just take out their magic wand and tap you on the shoulder, and they hand you a certificate and say, well, now you've done our training for 20 hours or so. You're a hypnotherapist. It's that's half a week of the training I got. And, including medical hypnosis. And medical hypnosis was at the Hypnotherapy Academy is taught, some of the classes are taught by physicians, actual doctors. Dr. Sapien is a emergency pediatric physician at the emergency room at the hospital there, teaches at the university there. Dr. Dulce, neurosurgeon, literal brain surgeon, and teaches some of the classes in medical hypnosis. So it's extraordinary training. So be aware of who you're looking at to work with. Look at their biography. If they don't tell you where they were trained, that's a huge red flag. I brag about my training all the time because it's quite extraordinary. Like an EMT, emergency medical technician, rides in the ambulances, restarts a heart Pulp Fiction style, and bleeding and internal injuries and broken limbs and all this stuff, unconscious. That's 150 hours to do that. I have 500 hours just in pure hypnotherapy training and medical hypnosis. And so again, that's a pat on my back, and I'm bragging and flexing a bit here. But the reason why is what you just mentioned. There are people out there who aren't extraordinarily trained. Do you want, like massage, you want a massage therapist who has 500 hours of training? Do you want a massage therapist who has 20 hours of training? And this is the same. And it's a head scratcher on why states don't license this. I would think the American Psychological Association would be all over that you need a certain amount of training in order to be licensed, and you have to take a test. It's like massage therapists have to take attest to be licensed in the state they practice in. Physical therapists, of course, psychiatrists, of course, and psychotherapists, auto mechanics.
Right.
So, plumbers, electricians, they all have to take licensing exams for the state to make sure they know what they're doing, not hypnotherapy. So just because you see somebody hypnotherapy, they have an office down the street from you, doesn't, you really need to ask the questions. If you're talking on the phone with them or doing emailing and just making sure they know what they're doing.
Good advice. So as we conclude here, give us some of your most colorful, exciting, dramatic success stories.
Sure. I was the one that sticks with me because of its extraordinariness is I was working with a woman, and now this started because I was doing classes for the cancer support community of Arizona. They had opened up an office in Flagstaff. I was doing workshops, giving back, Saturday mornings and Thursday evenings, and it'd be on like pain control and healing and acceleration and boosting your immune system and these kind of things. Maybe 12, 15 people in a class, like a series of classes. And, like February 2020, they were the first group that I saw who were taking everything seriously, and they shut down because everybody with dealing with cancer has a compromised immune system. And so as the kind of COVID thing started really ratcheting up, they shut down the office in terms of in-person stuff. And everything went to Zoom, and I had to learn how to do Zoom sessions. It was just kind of, trial by fire and thrown into the deep end of the pool to learn how to swim. And so, and it was like, well, I'm not going to do Zoom sessions. I don't want to be that guy. So I started doing Zoom sessions, and that's how I learned how to do it. And in and of itself, it's not that different than doing a regular session. And what's interesting, and not just with hypnotherapy, as a little tangent here, whether it's a talk therapy session, a business coaching session, life coaching, relationship counseling, a doctor's appointment, hypnotherapy, what the research has shown over the last 5 years or so is that Zoom sessions work as well as in-person sessions. And there's research that shows that Zoom sessions work better than in person because people feel relaxed and comfortable in their homes. Of course, that's going to be extraordinarily helpful for hypnotherapy. And they don't have to drive across town. You live in a big city, you don't have to drive across town on a Friday afternoon to try to get to your appointment. And when you're done, you're at home. How cool is that? So anyway, I started doing these Zoom sessions for the classes. And this one was in the class, one of the 12 or so people in the class. And she's about 70 years old, mid-70s. And we'd done 2 classes already. On the third class, she's kind of early to the class, and we're chit-chatting as one does about the weather and weekend plans and all that. And she said, I wanted to ask you if hypnotherapy can work with procrastination. And I said, oh, yeah, well, that's a mindset issue. You're blocking yourself from moving forward on something because your subconscious mind thinks it's dangerous. Maybe something very beneficial to you, going to that, investment meeting, going to the networking event, doing the presentation at the conference. It may be something very beneficial to you, getting the project done by Friday. But you're holding back, you're putting the brakes on it because your subconscious mind has been hypnotized, has been influenced to think that it's dangerous in some way. Now, it may be untrue, but it's trying to protect you. That's its main job. And I said, oh, yeah, hypnotherapy will work with procrastination. And she said, well, I'd love to do a session just with you one-on-one. And so we set up an appointment for the very next day because I had an appointment right at the same time that was open. And so 24 hours later, we're on a Zoom call. And she says, I told you I wanted to work on procrastination, but what I really want to work on is why I don't matter in life. This is a 70-year-old woman who thinks she doesn't matter, that she has no worth, that she has no value. And so we say, yeah, absolutely. We can work on that. And there's a feeling state to that. There's a feeling state to not feeling worthy or valuable. There's a feeling state to anxiety, a feeling state to anger, of course. And that's caused by brain chemistry. And the way we change brain chemistry in that way is through a thought, conscious or unconscious. A thought of fear, a thought of that we're not going to make it, a thought of, well, I'm not valuable, I need to hide. That's a feeling state in the body. So it's real, one ways of dealing with that is tracing the feeling state back to the thought that created it. And so we're doing some regression work. And understand, this is the first session I've done with her solo. She's done, at this point, 3 group sessions over Zoom of general issues around boosting your immune system and all that. This is her first solo session. We're doing regression work. Back to cause is the fancy term. And I do my 10 down to 1, 2, and 1. Where are you? And she says, I'm standing up in my crib and my father's screaming at me because I won't stop crying. And so if this is, if she was 70 some years ago, this may be the late 1950s, early 1960s. And maybe men back then weren't exactly tutored and trained on how to be nurturing parents to young children. Or maybe dad was having a bad day or a bad week or a bad life, or maybe dad just wasn't a very nice person. Anyway, mom's out of the house for whatever reason. Baby's crying. He doesn't know what to do. And out of his frustration, he just yells louder than the baby and says, why don't you just shut up and be quiet? And in that instant, that child, all of us, but in that instant, that child has to justify why this is happening. And in that child's mind, in that traumatic event of this person who's supposed to be loving her and nurturing her and protecting her, instead of screaming at her and being very frightening, that child thought, well, the only reason this is happening is because I don't matter in life. I have no value and I need to hide. I need to hide my light. I need to be quiet. And she held on to that for some 65, 70 years until she decided that it was time to let it go and drop that heaviness. And she did. And I never saw her again. So we had like 3 generalized classes with a group of people over Zoom, 1 solo session over Zoom, and she released and dropped the hurt and pain she needed to and moved on with life.
I'm curious, was she, because when you say you're in a crib, that to me is you're pre-verbal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yet
she was 12, 14 months old and stuff like that.
She remembered the words? That's
I don't know that
fascinating.
she remembered the words. She just said, my dad is screaming at me.
Okay. Yeah.
Now here's the thing. Sigmund Freud was very clear about this. Carl Jung, Milton Erickson, all the psychiatrists, psychotherapists. The subconscious mind speaks to us in metaphor and symbolism. Speaks to us in dreams, speaks to us in imagination. We can also speak back to the subconscious mind in symbolism and metaphor. That's why a lot of these techniques, hypnotherapy is, imagine yourself walking down a beautiful beach. You come to a waterfall. It's a waterfall of blue healing energy. Stand under the waterfall and wash all the stress in it. Is there really a waterfall of blue healing energy? No. But you can imagine there is, just as you can imagine there's a cheeseburger chasing down a street throwing coconuts at your head. So, and you'll have a physical change in your body. We take advantage of that. But the subconscious mind may be speaking to you and remembering things in a more symbolic and metaphoric way. It also may be twisting things. Memory is not solid and sound. It fluctuates over time. Every time you think of a memory, you're manipulating it a little bit.
Right.
Not to be evil or bad or anything. It's just that when we think of something in the past, whether it was a week ago or 60 years ago, we are changing it just due to the life circumstances we've gone through. In fact, one memory expert said that the only way to keep a memory pure is to not think about it. So whenever you think about high school, or you think about that meeting 6 months ago, or when you're changing, you're altering it. That's why eyewitness testimony is not, they don't like to rely on it solely in court, especially cold cases from 20 years ago.
Right.
So did that really happen? Did it happen in the way she remembered it? Quite possibly not. Right. But that's the way the nervous system installed that into the mind.
Yeah. Again,
it could have healing.
It could have been multiple events that she had.
Multiple events. And maybe dad was a really nice guy, and that's not the way it happened at all. I was in school and Hypnotherapy Academy. This is a great example. I know we're up against time, but real quickly, there was an older woman in the class. She was retired and wanted to do something, and instead of golf or learning piano, piano comes into this. She wanted to learn hypnotherapy. And so kind of as her retirement thing, she was learning hypnotherapy. And we're in class. This is a real class. You go to and sit in a classroom with other people and you learn about these techniques. You may see a demonstration at the front of class before you break up into small groups to practice with a coach in the room. This is highly supervised training. And so she had volunteered to do this process. And it was about playing piano. And she's a really great piano player, but she had hidden her talent, and it really hurt her soul because she wanted to play for her grandchildren. And she just couldn't do it because she remembered her piano teacher, like 12 years old, overheard the piano teacher talking to her parents saying, "I can't teach her anymore because she's so bad. She's so terrible. Her sister's fine, but older sister's fine, but I can't teach her." And she's like, "Well, I guess I'm terrible and bad." And she never played really again. She'd played to herself, but she wouldn't play out or play for other people at parties or family events or anything like that for some 60 years or so, maybe 50 years or so. And she was doing this process, and her memory came back and expanded it to remember things that she consciously didn't remember, including the piano teacher saying, "She's so good, I've taught her everything I know, and I can't teach her anymore. She needs a better teacher. I can teach her sister because her sister sucks." And I mean, she didn't say that, but you know what I mean. And I can teach her big older sister because I still have something to teach her. But she's so good, she's so great. She needs a really great teacher, maybe from the university or something. But she had edited all that other stuff out to the point of, "Oh, I'm so bad, I can't play anymore," and held on to. She hypnotized herself. She literally cut out parts of that conversation the parents were having with the piano teacher in order to fit some sort of mold of maybe what she thought about herself and at those times in terms of self-worth and value. And thought, well, it makes more sense that I'm a bad piano player than a great piano player because that doesn't fit my worldview of who I am. And so she held on to that for some, 50 years, 55 years, until during hypnosis in front of 20 people, she let it go. And she started playing piano again for her grandchildren and parties and things like that.
That's wild.
And now, was that really even true?
Who knows?
I don't know. It was 50 years ago. Who's she going to ask?
Right.
And so, but the subconscious mind thought it was true.
Right. Well, I mean, that's kind of the theme is it doesn't really matter whether it's true or not. Your brain perceives it as true.
Exactly. And that's what you work with. Is it metaphoric? Is it symbolic? Is it actually true? In and of itself, that's an interesting conversation to have over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine. Let's just fix the issue that the subconscious mind perceives as an issue. And let's do it maybe in a way that's very similar to, not to make it traumatic or anything, but in a way that your mind will absorb new information. Like you were saying before, visual, auditory, kinesthetic. If you're not a very visual person, using visualization techniques is not going to be helpful. Really what we're going to do is reverse engineer what you've done. We're going to de-hypnotize you of how you've already hypnotized yourself. To maybe be anxious of giving speeches in front of people because in the 5th grade you gave the book report or the show and tell and everybody laughed at you because you goofed it up or whatever. And you equated that in your mind to being in front of people is dangerous, so don't ever be in front of people. And now, 30 years later, you need to give the big speech at the conference, the keynote, and you're nervous because you have hypnotized yourself with an instruction on how to keep yourself safe that you shouldn't get in front of people because you were laughed at and humiliated back in the 5th grade. That's dangerous. That doesn't feel good. Your subconscious mind wants to keep you safe and protected. So hold on to these instructions like files in a filing cabinet. Well, you're the one who put it there. Not to say it was your fault, especially traumatic events as a child. It's not your fault. And it's not that you did it on purpose. You probably did it unconsciously, put these protection files in there, but you're the one who put them in there. So that becomes empowering. You don't have to look outside of yourself. I don't fix anybody. As a hypnotherapist, I don't fix anybody. And hypnotherapy in and of itself doesn't fix you. You fix yourself. You're the one who did it. And again, I'm not saying it's your fault or to blame you or to blame the victim or anything like that. Certainly not. But you're the one who installed those instructions and armored yourself in that way. So let's undo it.
That's
And I don't mean to make it sound that simple and easy, but sometimes it's that simple and easy. Like the example I gave. Yeah, not everything's like a one and done, and everything gets done in an hour and a half session. But sometimes it does. And I don't want to make it all sound easy and simple and magical. And sometimes I see people 4, 5, 6 times. That's pretty much it. That means that's the average. Sometimes I see people 1 or 2 times. Some people see people 7 or 8 times. But I'm not going to see you 80, 90 sessions over 2 years, like maybe talk therapy. Talk therapy is very helpful, very useful. Coaching, absolutely, 100%. Life coaching, business coaching, relationship counseling, 100%. We all need coaching in life. Baseball player, hitting coach, running coach, throwing coach, first base coach, third base coach, head coach, general manager, all to get you to a World Series. So yeah, have coaches in your life. Hypnotherapy is a great way of coaching because it works directly with your subconscious mind.
How do people find you if they want to learn more about what you do?
Yeah, finding me, thank you, is probably the website releasethepast.com. And I'll send that to you. That's relatively new. I kind of do a little rebranding. Either craigmeriweather.com, but I know Meriwether has a lot of different spellings to it. So I put up releasethepast.com. We can do a consultation call if you're interested in more information, email back and forth. Happy to talk with you if you have any questions.
Perfect. Yeah. Listeners will have that link in the show notes. If you like what you've heard, please rate the podcast, share the podcast, subscribe to the podcast. And until next time, remember, you are not alone.